Welcome back to another video from the Debate Room podcast. We're here with you guys after the first round of the NBA draft, the morning after. So we had a time to really sleep and rest on these picks, maybe give them a little bit of thought. Today we're going to do winners and losers, and we're going to grade every pick from the first round of the NBA draft. If you like the content, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment on what you think the best picks from the first round was, what teams you thought won and lost. How happy are you guys with your drafts? I'm especially talking to Nets fans. We'll get there later. Make sure you guys subscribe to the our social media platforms up at the top of the screen. We'll get right into it with our winners and losers of the NBA draft, and then we'll grade every pick on the individual level. I'm gonna start with Q, man. Who are some of your winners of the NBA draft from round one?
Obviously, the Mavericks won, so I'm not going to use the Mavericks. They got the best player in the draft. But I would say the Suns is a winner. And I know they got some pushback for trading 2 seconds for Mark Williams. But they went into the draft with no NBA center on their roster, and now they got 2. And you don't have to rush Kaman to be ready, immediately. Obviously, Mark Williams, whatever you think about, he's still like a serviceable center. He could play center for a while. You still bring Kaman on slowly. And once he's ready, he's ready. That's next year, whatever it may be. And you can go on from there. And a 29 first-round pick this year wasn't super valuable. Probably Mark Williams, you could say he's better than any center they could have got at 29. And the 2029 first would be the worst pick of Cleveland, Utah, and Minnesota. If Minnesota is still good in 2029, that's going to be a bad pick. If Cleveland, who I think should be good in 2029, is going to be a bad pick. Only one is Utah, but you're not getting a good Utah pick anyway. So the value isn't that, crazy. It's just a first-round pick tax. Who else I think won? I kind of think Atlanta won. Atlanta won because they came up with an unprotected 2026 pick next year. Moved down. They got Asamoah, who's, he has some things to work on, but at 23, that's great value. And working with Trey, he could, do something immediately would be a good lob threat. And they work in the front court. They need a front court depth anyway. Who else? I'd probably say that's it for right now, outside of like the obvious ones. But those ones, like, the low key winners of that. Oh, and Orlando. I think Orlando won. You basically swap out KCP and Cole Anthony for Desmond Bane and Jace Richardson. Jace Richardson at the spot that you got him, that's great value. One of the best shooters in the draft, one of the best playmakers in the draft. Size is a concern, but it doesn't really matter because they have a defensive-minded team over there. So you're going to be able to hide him, and he's still going to be able to provide a spark on offense.
I agree with basically everything you said. The Suns, I'm not a big fan of trading the capital they did for Mark Williams. I think it was like a first, and then one of the first probably turns to a second. It's like a 1.5 first, basically. Mark Williams is injury prone. I don't think he is a good rim protector. But if he can stay healthy, then obviously that's a good move considering they didn't have any centers on the roster, like you said before the draft started. I think isn't he up for extension pretty soon? So they got
restricted.
Yeah, they're gonna have to evaluate him. If they don't, they're not gonna send him after this year. I don't think. No way. But they probably let him play on this one more year deal, and then they'll have to like evaluate him then. But yeah, come on, he's my 5th ranked player in this draft. Get him at 10 when you desperately need a center is great value. He's a really great screener, really great roller. I think him in this ecosystem is going to benefit like him and Devin Booker, him and Bradley Beal, him and Jalen Green, because he's going to free up so many open looks for him off of his roll gravity, his screening, all that type of stuff. So I also think it's going to be really great for him to not have to be like an offensive option, like really at all early on, because they have, for what it's worth, they have like Jalen Green, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. Those guys are going to score. I think Devin Booker and Bradley Beal can give him the ball. So, like that's going to help him early on. So I love it. Once the Suns made that pick, I'm like, yeah, A+ picks from the Suns. I agree with the Hawks because they got unprotected first round pick and what we think is going to be a great draft in 2026. for the 13th overall pick. I see a lot of Hawks fans not really happy with Asa Newell, and I get it because people don't like tweeners. He can't. I don't think he can really play the five because he's not. I don't think he's a good enough rim protector to play the five. He really needs to. If he's going to play the four, though, his ball handling and shooting needs to grow, which I think he has time to develop those type of things. And I just think play finishers that play with trade, they're gonna be solid. Like he can finish plays really well. He's a really good athlete, really good motor. So I think he's gonna provide value just off of being able to finish plays. I'll say one of my winners from round one was the Heat. Getting Kasper Jakuchonis at 20, I think is really good value. I do have concerns about his concerns about his advantage creation. I don't think he has a dynamic handle. I think he is a really poor athlete, but having him as like a secondary, tertiary ball handler early on, playing off of Bam and Tyler Hero along with Khalil Ware, I think it's a really good long-term play for the Heat to have him on his roster. And I think he can be one of the steals of this draft. As long as, I think he struggled at Illinois at that time because he had such high usage. He touched the ball basically every play. They didn't have any other ball handlers. Didn't have really good shooting. So having him in like a scaled down role as like a secondary table setting ball handler, I think it's going to be really good for the Heat. He can come out with dribble handoffs with Bam, and if they can create advantages for him, that he can just finish, whether that's by a pass or a finish at the rim. He can be a really serviceable player. So loved it from the Heat. Do you talk about the Spurs?
They were one of the teams that I said were obvious, but aside from Dylan Harper, obviously getting Carter Bryant, where they got him at 14, was amazing value. Plug and play, defender, good out of transition, to shoot the ball. He's really gonna fit in at the wing. He's gonna be there. Fits the timeline. That's why I didn't want to get into it, but obviously not everybody know about Carter Bryant. But if you're in this space, you understand he probably fits most rosters because he's just literally plug and play, and he's pretty much good at everything.
Yep. So I think the Spurs were big winners. I talked about it on my TikTok last night. Getting Dylan Harper at 2 is like the obvious pick among consensus. I think he's gonna work really well there whenever they figure out their guard situation, because they do have to probably move one of those guards in about a year and a half or so probably. But getting Carter Bryant at 14, I had him around like 14 on my board, but he's a perfect fit in this. He's a perfect fit on this roster. He's a low usage wing. They didn't really need someone that's going to have to take a lot of shots, but he's an extremely versatile defender. As a help defender, he can wreck plays. He's a really good athlete. He can knock down spot up threes, move off the ball. Having him playing like the 3 or the 4 along with Wemby at the 5 that's going to make for, I think, a great defense going forward here. So I think the Spurs really crushed the draft, man. I think they really did. Let's move on to some losers. Q, who do we think? And we're not going to be super harsh here, but based off what we projected going into this draft, value from picks, stuff like that, who do you have as losers so far from round one?
My 3 main losers: the Nets, the Pelicans, and the Trailblazers. Okay. For the Pelicans, obviously they given up an unprotected pick next year, which I don't think they should have been able to do. Obviously you got Derek Green, who's one of the more polarizing prospects in his draft. The fit next to Zion is still up in the air. Honestly, you did get that pick, but just giving up your capital next year, I just don't think you were in a position to do that based on the injury history for your team, based on 2 of your 4 best players between Zion, Trey Murphy, even DeJounte Murray, since he's still on the roster. That's could lead to number 1 pick contention, and you're basically giving the Hawks a number 1 pick in a loaded draft, the top lottery pick in a loaded draft class. I don't think that was the right move. Portland, not that Hanson Yang is a bad prospect. There was a lot of buzz. He could have been a first round or whatever it may be, but they have 4 centers on their roster. Obviously, if you're picking Hanson Yang, you would think like you're trading DeAndre and Rob Will, but they haven't shown any inclination to even trade those players. And you just got Donovan Clingan last year, so that front court is pretty loaded. It's hard to find minutes, especially if you're picking a first round talent on a team that still needs talent. I think you could have went in a different direction. The Nets, you get 5 first round picks, and I don't want to say you missed on all of them, but you missed on all of the picks. Jaeger too high, in my opinion. The way the roster is constructed, he's going to have to do a lot, and I don't think he's going to be able to work like that. Nolan, like you said on Twitter, he's not great at anything right now other than getting down him, possibly passing the ball. But who's the talent he's passing to? Danny Wolf, you kind of have a version of him on a roster with what's bro name from is that Drew Timmy, but he doesn't.
I'm crying.
He don't do what he doesn't do what like most centers would do. Like, yes, he has the flashy passes, but again, those flashy passes, they come far and in between, because before he makes that great pass, there's been 4 turnovers before that. And then once he makes the flash pass, it's like, oh, we forget about the turnovers. Not a great screener, not a great defender, not a very good rebounder, not great in the post. There's not a lot that he does things that look good, but it doesn't overshadow all the bad things that a center should be. Serapis, I think, is a good pick where they got him, but you already picked 2 guards before that. You know what I'm saying? Drake Powell is probably the best pick of the night. I'm not going to harp on Drake Powell. Another like plug and play guy type, going to defend, athletic, get the rim, things like that. That's probably the best pick from where they got him at. But those other 4 first round picks were pretty much all dull. I think you could have packaged those, got another player moved up, another talent from another team. I think it was a mismanagement of assets. I think the Timberwolves also losers too. I think they swung too high on a young rim protecting prospect. I understand you need some more depth in the center spot, but I don't think that was the pick to go. Yeah, those are my 4 losers.
I have basically the same losers. Like you said, I think the Nets just mismanaged their assets. I think Jaeger and Nolan are like years away. Now they have time; they have all the time in the world, and they're going to get probably a really good draft pick next year to pair alongside this young talent. Denman is just like, I mean, I really don't think he did anything at. I don't think he did anything at BYU on an NBA level outside of pass the ball. He's a really high level passer. I think he's a good processor. I don't think he deals with pressure well at all. He picks up his dribble a lot. People are easily able to bump him off his spot. He needs to put on weight. He needs to get a better handle, a more tighter handle. He turned the ball over a lot too, and he played in a really advantageous system at BYU with Kevin Young, with some of the best 3-point shooters in the country, like with great sets too, with NBA level sets too, and he wasn't able to be productive outside of the first 5 games of the year. It was a really head scratching pick for me at number 8. They followed it up with Traore, who also can really only pass right now. He gets downhill a lot because he's really, really, really quick. I will say I think I like the Traore pick better. He had like a 41 assist percentage, the highest in the class. He gets his spots. He just doesn't make a lot of them. I think he shot like 55% at the rim. His mid-range field goal percentage was bad. His 3-point percentage was bad. His free throw percentage was bad. I don't think the Nets selected one player that shot over 75% from the free throw line. It's not, the draft was just, I think, uninspiring. I like Drake Powell. I think he can grow into a really solid role player. Really, he's gonna be a really good defender. He's a really good athlete. He shot 40% from 3 off the catch on a low volume. So if he can raise that volume and maintain solid efficiency, I think he's gonna be a really good role player in this league down the line. Danny Wolf, I don't think he does center stuff well enough for me. But I don't want to harp on the Nets. Everybody's gonna be harping on the Nets. But my losers was also the Blazers and the Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves. I think, and I know I'm saying his name wrong because we got the pronunciations yesterday, and his name is like super French. It's like Johan Berenze or something like that. I think he's Johan Berenze. I think I got it. I think he's pretty raw. And I think the Timberwolves are in this space where they're trying to win right now. They're probably not going to play him early on, which is something. I think he can grow into like a running rim protecting big. He led his league in block percentage, so I think he's going to be a good rim protector. The offense though is really really raw. He just started playing basketball too, so maybe there's some maybe there's outlier development there. And they did just draft. They have another French center he can learn from. So yeah, the Blazers, Hassan Yang or Yang. Wait, they say it was Yang Hassan. I don't know. It's kind of like I don't know.
I think it's backwards.
I don't know. I thought it was Hassan Yang in the whole draft, but I don't know what happened. But I think that was a really big reach. That was a really big reach at 16. He was very good, but he was in a tier like the CBA is not a good basketball league. It's not. I think he was a good rim protector in that league. I want to see how it translates to the NBA. I want to see how he plays in space, but I think he's a good. He has good feel, pretty good passer, makes smart decisions. So not necessarily. I don't think he's a bad prospect. I just think he took him really high. Maybe they really believe in him because they've been watching him for 2 years. I think Mike Smith was one of the best players best persons in the draft space when he was in the draft space still. He was so good that he became literally like a scout or like the head drafter for the Portland Trail Blazers. So it's really hard to question his decision making, considering he traded for Denny, a lot of stuff. I mean, Scoot was coming along. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to harp on those guys too much, but I think they weren't winners for sure. I don't think.